Softly against the giant glass windows of the Bennett mansion, sitting proudly in Buckhead like it paid taxes separately from the rest of Atlanta. Inside the kitchen, the smell of garlic butter salmon floated through the air while soft jazz played from a speaker. 24-year-old Naomi adjusted the sleeves of her uniform and checked the oven again. Upstairs, the sound of laughter exploded from Vanessa Bennett's phone. Tick-tock. Again. Naomi sighed quietly. Girl, if I see one more woman wearing fake Chanel. Vanessa cackled from the living room before gasping dramatically. Oh my God, Melissa bought the same handbag as me. She is sick in the head. Naomi continued plating dinner. Vanessa Bennett had perfected the art of existing without contributing anything besides opinions and online shopping receipts. Meanwhile, her husband worked like the United States economy personally depended on him. Ethan Bennett, 40 years old, billionaire real estate developer. Sharp suits, sharp mind, permanently exhausted eyes. The front door opened. Naomi immediately looked up. Sir is home. Vanessa didn't even blink from her phone. In the kitchen, she yelled lazily. Ethan walked in, loosening his tie, looking like Atlanta traffic personally fought him today. Naomi smiled softly. Good evening, sir. The man paused slightly. That smile again. Warm. Peaceful. Not fake, not performed. Good evening, Naomi. She stepped forward. How was your day? That simple question nearly broke him every single time because his own wife had not asked him that in maybe 3 years. Ethan exhaled heavily. Complicated. Naomi handed him a glass of water. Then you need food immediately. Vanessa finally walked in wearing silk pajamas that cost more than Naomi's monthly salary. Babe, guess what happened? Ethan looked tired already. What? Melissa copied my vacation hairstyle. The man blinked slowly. Naomi quietly turned away to hide her smile. Vanessa continued dramatically. She even posted it before me. That woman is spiritually jealous. Ethan stared at her for 3 full seconds before looking toward Naomi. Smells amazing. Naomi smiled. Thank you, sir. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Well, obviously. That's literally her job. The room went quiet. Even the salmon looked uncomfortable. Later that night, Naomi ironed Ethan's shirts carefully while he worked in his office upstairs. Vanessa was downstairs live streaming herself unboxing designer shoes for women she secretly hated. Naomi knocked gently on the office door. Sir? Ethan looked up from his laptop. Yes. Your blue Tom Ford suit is ready for tomorrow. He rubbed his forehead tiredly. Thank you. She hesitated. You haven't eaten dessert. The man laughed quietly. You notice everything. Well, Naomi smiled nervously. Someone has to. That hit him harder than it should have. She stepped closer, setting the plate beside him. You work too hard, sir. Ethan looked at her. Really looked at her. Simple makeup. Kind eyes. Gentle voice. Peaceful energy. Meanwhile, his wife treated marriage like a sponsored Instagram partnership. You always listen to me talk about work, he said softly. Naomi shrugged. You sound passionate when you talk about it. Vanessa suddenly stormed in dramatically. Babe, look at this comment. Someone said my nose contour is too dark. Ethan immediately leaned back in his chair, emotionally exhausted. Naomi quietly escaped before she laughed. 2 nights later, Vanessa announced at dinner. I'm spending the weekend at Brianna's house. Ethan barely looked up. Okay, she's going through emotional stress. Naomi almost choked on water because Brianna's emotional stress was usually tequila and divorced men. Vanessa pointed at Naomi. And don't cook oily food while I'm gone. Last time the house smelled like happiness. Naomi blinked. What did that even mean? Vanessa grabbed her purse dramatically and left. The mansion became quiet for the first time in weeks. That evening, Ethan went out with his friends. Around midnight, Naomi paced near the kitchen anxiously. Sir doesn't normally stay out this late, thunder rumbled outside. Then ding-dong. Naomi rushed toward the door. Opening it, her eyes widened. Ethan stood there barely conscious between his 2 best friends Marcus and Julian. Oh Lord. Marcus laughed. Your boss lost a fight with expensive whiskey. Julian grinned. He started comparing his wife to you after drink number 6. Ethan pointed weakly. She listens to me. Naomi froze. Marcus raised both hands. Yeah, we're just gonna pretend we didn't hear that. The men helped Ethan upstairs. Ethan stumbled halfway. Why are stairs moving? Because you're drunk, Julian said. No, the house is disrespectful. Naomi accidentally laughed. God. Even drunk he was charming. They finally got him into his bedroom. Marcus pulled Naomi aside quietly. He's been unhappy for a long time. Naomi looked uncomfortable. She's his wife. Marcus gave a dry laugh. Legally? Yes. Then they left. The room became quiet except for rain outside. Ethan groaned while loosening his tie. Water. Naomi quickly handed him a glass. He drank clumsily, then stared at her. You stayed awake. Of course. Vanessa never waits up. Something painful crossed his face. Naomi gently removed his shoes. You should sleep, sir. Suddenly he grabbed her wrist softly. Don't call me sir tonight. Her heart skipped violently. What should I call you? His voice lowered. Ethan. Silence. Dangerous silence. Rain hitting windows. Heavy breathing. Atlanta lights glowing outside. Naomi slowly looked away. You're drunk. I'm honest. That was worse. Much worse. He sat up slowly. You know what's funny? What? My wife knows the release date of every luxury handbag, but doesn't know my favorite color anymore. Naomi's chest tightened. Ethan laughed bitterly. She thinks marriage is posting anniversary pictures with captions like, my king, while forgetting I exist in real life. Naomi spoke gently. She may just be distracted. No, he looked directly at her. She stopped caring. The air changed. Naomi tried stepping back. This conversation is inappropriate. Is it untrue? Silence. He continued quietly. You ask me how my day went every single day. Naomi swallowed hard. You remember my meetings. You remind me to eat. You notice when I'm stressed. His eyes softened painfully. You treat me like I matter. Naomi whispered carefully. Because you do. That nearly destroyed him. Ethan suddenly stood. Too fast that he stumbled slightly. Naomi grabbed him immediately. Their bodies froze close together. Very close. The tension became thick enough to charge rent. Ethan looked down at her. Naomi quickly stepped away. This is wrong. But it feels peaceful. Sir, Ethan. She closed her eyes briefly. You're married. So am I apparently. Despite herself, Naomi laughed. The man smiled for the first time all week. Then suddenly, Vanessa FaceTimed. Both froze. Ethan stared at the phone like it personally offended him. Naomi stepped back immediately. Answer it. He sighed and picked up. Vanessa appeared screaming over loud music. Babe, look at Brianna's bartender. Ethan blinked slowly. The bartender was shirtless. Vanessa, what? You left me home for this? She frowned. Why do you sound annoying tonight? Naomi quietly escaped downstairs. But her heart was racing uncontrollably. Upstairs, Ethan ended the call feeling emptier than ever. The next morning, Naomi made coffee quietly. Ethan entered looking terrible. Good morning. Naomi avoided eye contact. Coffee is ready. Awkward silence. Finally, Ethan spoke softly. About last night. You were drunk. I meant every word. Her hands froze. Please don't. Why? Because people like me don't survive situations like this. He stepped closer. What does that mean? Naomi laughed sadly. It means women like your wife blame women like me for everything. That hit deeply because she was right. Vanessa would burn the entire state of Georgia before blaming herself. Ethan looked at Naomi carefully. You deserve better than hiding. Before she could answer, Vanessa walked in wearing sunglasses indoors. Why does this house smell emotional? Naomi nearly inhaled coffee wrong. Vanessa looked between them suspiciously. What's happening? Nothing, Ethan answered calmly. Vanessa narrowed her eyes. Then suddenly, Naomi, pack my white dresses. Ethan, Brianna says couples who spend too much time apart lose connection. Ethan stared blankly. You literally left yesterday. Yes, but spiritually. Naomi quietly walked away before she exploded laughing. But upstairs, while packing Vanessa's clothes, Naomi suddenly realized something terrifying. She was falling in love with a man she could never have. And downstairs, Ethan Bennett finally realized the maid understood his heart better than the woman wearing his wedding ring. And that was the beginning of the disaster. Vanessa Bennett had many talents. Cooking was not one of them. Listening was absolutely not one of them. But causing chaos? Oh, she had a PhD in that. The next few days inside the Bennett mansion became painfully awkward. Every time Naomi entered a room, Ethan looked at her like a thirsty man staring at cold lemonade during an Atlanta heat wave. And every time Vanessa entered a room, she looked at herself. One Tuesday morning, Naomi was helping Ethan with his tie before a business gala. Her fingers carefully adjusted the silk while Ethan stood unusually still. Too still. The tension between them had become dangerous enough to require legal supervision. "You're nervous," Naomi whispered. "I'm trying not to breathe." She looked up innocently. "Why?" "Because you're close." Naomi immediately stepped back. "Oh, oh," Ethan repeated softly. "That's all I get?" Before she could answer, Vanessa burst into the room wearing a glittering gold dress that looked like it had personally argued with common sense. "Babe, does this dress scream wealthy?" Ethan looked at it. "It screams something." Naomi nearly swallowed her tongue, trying not to laugh. Vanessa spun dramatically. "I need people to feel intimidated." "Trust me," Ethan muttered. Mission accomplished. At the gala that evening, Atlanta's richest people floated around the ballroom pretending to enjoy tiny, expensive food portions. Naomi remained nearby, helping coordinate Ethan's schedule for the night, while Vanessa disappeared every 20 minutes to take photos. At one point, Ethan was trapped speaking to investors when one older businessman leaned toward him. "That your wife?" Ethan looked toward Vanessa posing near a champagne tower. "Yes." The man paused. "And the young woman beside you?" Ethan glanced toward Naomi, helping organize documents. Something softened in his expression immediately. "That," he said quietly, "is the reason my life still functions." Naomi overheard. Her cheeks warmed instantly. Unfortunately, Vanessa overheard too. "Oh Jesus." Her face changed immediately. Not hurt. Not sadness. Territory. Vanessa walked over slowly like a rich panther with a credit card limit. "What exactly does that mean?" The room became tense. Ethan sighed internally. "Vanessa." "No, no, no," she snapped. "Explain." Naomi immediately stepped back. "Ma'am, I should go check the—" "Stay out of this," Vanessa barked. Ethan's eyes hardened instantly. "Do not speak to her like that." Vanessa blinked. Because her husband never defended anyone against her. Ever. The surrounding guests suddenly became deeply interested in their drinks. Vanessa laughed bitterly. "Oh my God." Ethan rubbed his forehead, already exhausted. "Not here. You defend the maid now? She works harder than anybody in this house." Vanessa scoffed dramatically. "She's paid to. And you're married to me," Ethan replied coldly. Yet somehow she still puts in more effort. The silence afterward could have shattered windows. Naomi whispered desperately, "Sir, please." Vanessa looked at her sharply. "Why are you blushing?" Naomi froze. Ethan's jaw tightened. Vanessa stared between them. Then slowly, horribly, everything clicked in her brain. "Oh my God." Her voice dropped. "Oh my God." People nearby started pretending to check emails. "You have feelings for the maid?" The entire ballroom went silent. Even the violinist missed a note. Naomi's face drained completely. "Ma'am, it's not." Vanessa laughed loudly. "This is insane." Ethan Bennett, billionaire businessman, emotionally attached to somebody ironing his underwear. Ethan's expression darkened. "You embarrass yourself constantly." Vanessa pointed aggressively. "You're sleeping with her?" "No." Naomi answered immediately. Ethan looked at Vanessa coldly. "But at least she knows how to care about another human being." That landed like a grenade. Vanessa stared at him in disbelief. "You can't be serious. For years I begged you to notice me." "Oh please. You don't know anything about me anymore." Vanessa crossed her arms. "I know you're dramatic." Ethan laughed once. A tired, broken laugh. "Do you know my favorite whiskey?" Silence. "My biggest project this year?" Silence. "What keeps me awake at night?" Vanessa rolled her eyes. "You're rich. Rich people don't have problems." Naomi quietly looked down because even she knew the answers to all three questions. Ethan noticed. So did Vanessa. And that hurt her ego more than anything else. Back at the mansion later that night, World War III officially began. "You embarrass me tonight." Vanessa screamed, throwing her heels across the room. Ethan loosened his tie. "You embarrassed yourself. You made me look stupid over a maid." "No," he snapped finally. "You've been doing that alone for years." Vanessa looked shocked. "You know what your problem is?" Ethan continued. "You think being beautiful is enough." She gasped dramatically. "It should be enough." Naomi quietly stood in the kitchen, hearing everything upstairs and wishing the earth would swallow her whole. Vanessa stormed downstairs suddenly. Her eyes landed immediately on Naomi. There it was. The hatred. "Oh, you're still here?" Naomi stood carefully. "Yes, ma'am." Vanessa laughed bitterly. "Congratulations. You finally replaced Alexa as my husband's favorite thing in this house." "Vanessa, enough," Ethan warned from upstairs. "No. I want to hear this." Vanessa snapped. "Did you plan this?" Acting sweet? Cooking breakfast? Pretending to care? Naomi's eyes watered. I never wanted problems. Vanessa scoffed. Women like you always say that while stealing husbands. Ethan came downstairs immediately furious. Apologize. Vanessa looked stunned. To her? Yes. Vanessa laughed like a villain in a low-budget soap opera. You must be out of your mind. Then she looked directly at Naomi. You think he'll marry you? Men like Ethan play with girls like you when they're bored. Naomi quietly wiped a tear. Ethan stepped forward immediately. Get out. Vanessa blinked. What? You heard me. You're kicking me out? For tonight? Absolutely. Vanessa stared at him in disbelief. Then suddenly she smiled slowly. A dangerous smile. Oh, now I understand. Ethan narrowed his eyes. You're emotionally cheating already. Naomi whispered softly. Please stop. Vanessa ignored her completely. You haven't touched her yet, have you? Silence. That silence answered everything. Vanessa laughed cruelly. But you want to. Ethan said nothing. Because lying suddenly felt pointless. Vanessa looked disgusted. You pathetic man. Then she grabbed her purse dramatically. This marriage is finished. Ethan answered coldly. It's been finished. The front door slammed violently. Silence filled the mansion. Naomi stood frozen. Ethan rubbed his face tiredly. Then finally, he looked at her. And she looked at him. Two people standing in the wreckage of a marriage neither of them intended to destroy. Naomi whispered shakily. I should leave. Ethan's heart dropped instantly. What? This house? This situation, it's too messy. You didn't cause this. But I'm part of it now. He stepped closer desperately. Naomi. She looked away emotionally. You deserve someone clean. Simple. Not this. Ethan's voice lowered painfully. I don't want simple. Silence. I want peace. Her eyes slowly met his. And for the first time, he touched her face gently. Not lust. Not impulse. Something deeper. Something terrifying. Naomi's breathing trembled. Ethan. Then, the mansion doors suddenly burst open again. Vanessa stormed back inside screaming. I forgot my charger. Everybody froze. Vanessa stared at Ethan holding Naomi's face. A beat. Another beat. Then Vanessa screamed loud enough to wake people in Alabama. I knew it. I knew it. Vanessa's scream bounced through the mansion like a police siren with personal issues. Naomi jumped away from Ethan so fast she nearly knocked over a lamp worth somebody's yearly salary. Vanessa stood there breathing heavily, clutching her phone charger like it was evidence in a murder trial. Oh, this is filthy, she hissed dramatically. This is what happens while I'm gone for 6 minutes. It's not what you think, Naomi whispered. Vanessa laughed loudly. Oh, sweetheart, unless my husband was checking your temperature with his hand, I think I'm very correct. Vanessa, enough, Ethan warned. No, she shouted. I leave this house and Cinderella starts auditioning for wife position? Naomi's eyes watered immediately. Ethan stepped forward. Stop humiliating her. Vanessa looked personally offended. You should be humiliated. She pointed at Naomi viciously. This little church mouse-looking maid has been emotionally moisturizing my husband behind my back. Even Ethan blinked at that sentence. What does that even mean? He asked. It means she's been feeding you attention like a stray cat. Naomi finally spoke shakily. I never crossed any boundaries. Vanessa scoffed. You ironed his shirts while listening to business problems. That's foreplay for rich men. Honestly, that wasn't entirely false. Ethan rubbed his forehead. This marriage was broken before Naomi. Oh, please, Vanessa snapped. You're having a midlife crisis because somebody younger smiles at you while handing you pancakes. That's not fair, Ethan shot back. What's not fair is me competing with the help. The word landed ugly. Very ugly. Naomi quietly lowered her eyes. Ethan noticed immediately. And something inside him snapped. Get out. Vanessa blinked. You already said that. I mean permanently. The room froze. Even the air conditioner sounded nervous. Vanessa stared at him. You would divorce me over her? Ethan answered calmly. No, he looked directly into her eyes. I'm divorcing you because for years you stopped being my partner. Silence. You mocked me. You ignored me. You only loved the lifestyle. Vanessa's face slowly shifted from anger to panic. Because suddenly, this was real. You can't be serious, she whispered. Ethan laughed bitterly. The maid knows my coffee order, Vanessa. That line, devastating. The maid knows when I'm stressed. The maid notices when I haven't slept. The maid asks how my day was. His voice cracked slightly. My own wife doesn't even know I hate champagne. Vanessa stared speechless because she genuinely didn't know that. Naomi quietly stepped backward. This isn't my place. No, Vanessa snapped instantly. It is your place, apparently. Stop attacking her, Ethan growled. Oh my God, listen to yourself. Vanessa screamed. You're in love with a maid. The mansion fell silent again. Because nobody denied it. Naomi looked terrified. Ethan looked exhausted. And Vanessa looked like somebody just informed her luxury brands were shutting down forever. Finally, Naomi whispered, I should resign. Ethan turned immediately. No, Vanessa laughed bitterly. Oh, that's romantic. Naomi's voice trembled. I can't stay here. You can, Ethan answered softly. I can't. She looked at him painfully. People like me don't survive stories like this. Vanessa folded her arms dramatically. Oh, now she's quoting sadness. Ethan shot Vanessa a deadly look. Enough. But Vanessa was unraveling now. Years of arrogance cracking open all at once. You know what? She snapped. Fine. Go be together. Neither of them answered. That silence again. Vanessa's face hardened. Oh wow. Then suddenly she grabbed a crystal vase and hurled it across the room. Crash. Naomi gasped. Ethan barely reacted. Probably because this wasn't even top 10 craziest Vanessa moments. You ruined my marriage. Vanessa screamed at Naomi. Naomi finally broke. No, she cried. Your marriage was lonely before I came here. The room froze. Vanessa looked stunned. Naomi wiped tears angrily. I spent 2 years watching him come home exhausted while you sat on your phone. Ethan stared at her quietly. You never listened to him. You never appreciated him. You treated him like an ATM with shoulders. Vanessa looked horrified. Naomi continued emotionally. He talks about business because he's passionate. He works hard because he's trying to build something. He needed love, not competition over handbags. Vanessa's mouth opened slowly. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Ever. And honestly, somewhere deep down she knew Naomi was right. That made it worse. Vanessa laughed shakily to cover the humiliation. So what now? She asked bitterly. The maid becomes Mrs. Bennett. Naomi immediately shook her head. No, Ethan looked confused. Naomi stepped backward emotionally. I won't do this. Naomi. No, she whispered firmly. You're still married. Not for long. That's still married. Ethan stared at her helplessly. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. I care about you too much to become the reason people destroy your name. That sentence hit him harder than love confession would have. Because it was selfless. Pure. Vanessa saw it too. And for the first time since meeting Naomi, Vanessa felt small. Not because Naomi was richer. Not because she was prettier. But because the girl genuinely loved Ethan more carefully than she ever had. The realization stung like acid. Naomi grabbed her small purse. I'll leave tonight. Ethan stepped toward her immediately. You're not leaving. I have to. You don't. I do. Her voice cracked softly. Because if I stay, I won't be able to stop loving you. Silence. Painful silence. Even Vanessa looked shaken by that. Ethan moved closer slowly. Then don't stop. Naomi closed her eyes briefly like the words physically hurt. You deserve time to end things properly. I already ended emotionally years ago. But not legally. Atlanta rain poured heavily outside as emotions crashed inside the mansion harder than thunder. Then suddenly, Vanessa started laughing. Not normal laughing. The slightly unhinged rich wife kind. Oh, this is sick. She wiped fake tears dramatically. My husband fell in love with a woman who reminds him to eat vegetables. Nobody answered. Vanessa shook her head. You know what the funniest part is? She looked directly at Ethan. You look happier talking to her for 5 minutes than you've looked with me in 5 years. Again, nobody denied it. That silence was becoming Vanessa's greatest enemy. Finally, she grabbed her suitcase. Well, congratulations. She looked at Naomi coldly. You won. Naomi whispered sadly. This doesn't feel like winning. And honestly, it didn't. Not yet. Because love born inside betrayal always comes carrying guilt behind it like unpaid rent. Vanessa walked toward the door. Then paused dramatically one last time. Oh, and Naomi? Naomi looked up cautiously. Vanessa smirked bitterly. He snores when he's stressed. Ethan sighed deeply. Vanessa. And he cries during animal rescue commercials. And if he drinks milk after 10 p.m. his stomach starts making sounds like a haunted washing machine. Naomi accidentally laughed through tears. Ethan covered his face in embarrassment. Vanessa pointed triumphantly. See? She laughs at your nonsense. I used to do that. For the first time that night, her voice sounded sad, really sad. Then, quietly, Vanessa went upstairs. The mansion became suddenly silent. Not normal quiet. Not everybody went to sleep quiet. This was the kind of silence that sits in a room like unpaid bills and bad decisions. The shattered vase still lay across the marble floor. White flowers were scattered everywhere like innocent people caught in rich people problems. Naomi slowly lowered her trembling hand from her mouth. Vanessa's heels echoed upstairs. Clack, clack, clack. Then a loud door slam shook the house. Boom. Ethan stood frozen in the middle of the living room, breathing heavily. His jaw tightened while he rubbed his forehead. Naomi bent quietly to pick up the broken vase pieces. Leave it, Ethan said. Naomi replied. It'll stain the floor. The floor will survive. Ethan said. She stopped moving. For a second, neither of them spoke. The fireplace crackled softly behind them while Atlanta's city lights glowed through the giant windows. Naomi finally laughed weakly through tears. Not because anything was funny. It was the kind of laugh people make when life starts behaving like a badly written soap opera. You know, if somebody told me 2 years ago that a billionaire's wife would throw pottery at me because I ironed shirts properly, I would have rebuked them with olive oil, said Naomi. Ethan let out the smallest laugh despite himself. And honestly, that little laugh almost made Naomi cry harder because she realized something terrifying. She knew the sound of this man's laughter. She knew when he was stressed. She knew how he liked his coffee. She knew which business calls ruined his mood. She knew he loosened his tie when he was exhausted. And somewhere along the way, without permission, her heart had memorized him. Ethan looked at her carefully. Really looked at her. Not as the maid. Not as staff. But as Naomi. The woman who stayed. The woman who noticed things. The woman who listened. Upstairs, Vanessa was still yelling on the phone. Vanessa, distantly. I don't care what blogs are saying. That maid is manipulating my husband. Naomi closed her eyes slowly. Ethan looked at her and said, Vanessa thinks attention is love. Don't say that she's your wife. Naomi replied, She's a stranger living in my house, said Ethan. That sentence landed heavily between them. Naomi stood up carefully and said, Sir, don't say things tonight you can't take back tomorrow. Ethan stepped closer. No. Tonight is the first night I've said something honest in years. Upstairs, another door slammed. Probably Vanessa attacking another innocent object that did not deserve involvement in billionaire marriage problems. Naomi picked up her small cleaning towel and said, I should go. No, Naomi, please stay. I'm just a maid, Ethan. It was the first time she had ever called him by his name. Not sir. Not Mr. Cole. Just Ethan. Both of them noticed it immediately. And Lord, the air changed. The kind of tension that could make a chandelier nervous. Ethan walked closer slowly. Ethan, say it again. Naomi looked away instantly. Naomi, don't do this. Ethan, do what? Naomi, look at me like that. Ethan, how am I looking at you? Naomi, like I matter. That nearly broke him. Because the painful truth was, she did. More than she should. More than he was prepared for. More than was safe. Upstairs, Vanessa suddenly appeared at the top of the staircase with smeared makeup and fury sitting on her face like expensive contour. Oh my God, said Vanessa. Both Ethan and Naomi looked up. Vanessa laughed bitterly and said, You two really stood down there looking like the final scene of a Tyler Perry movie. Naomi stepped back immediately. Ethan shouted, Vanessa, Vanessa replied. No. No. Let's stop pretending. She walked downstairs slowly. Still beautiful. Still glamorous. But now stripped of performance, and then she said, You know what the funniest part is, while pointing at Naomi. She loves you more in one quiet breakfast than I have loved you in 5 years. Silence. Even Ethan looked stunned. Vanessa laughed painfully, then added, I kept thinking marriage was photos. Parties. Jewelry. Followers. She shook her head. But this girl, she gestured toward Naomi, this girl learned your soul while I was busy learning TikTok dances. Naomi's eyes filled again. Then Vanessa carried on. You know what my friends used to call him? Ethan sighed tiredly and asked what. Vanessa replied, They said you are an ATM with shoulders. Even Naomi accidentally laughed through her tears at that. Ethan covered his face briefly. Vanessa, see? That's the problem. She laughs with you. I only laughed at you. For the first time in the entire story. Vanessa looked tired. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just exhausted. Like a woman realizing too late that neglect can destroy a marriage faster than betrayal. She looked at Naomi. Vanessa, I hated you because you became everything I stopped trying to be. Naomi whispered softly. Naomi, I never wanted your life. Vanessa nodded slowly. I know. Then she looked at Ethan one final time. Vanessa, and you. Her voice cracked slightly. You stopped loving me long before tonight. Ethan could not answer because cruel truths usually arrive without defense. Vanessa inhaled shakily. Then surprisingly, she smiled. A sad smile. But real. Well, at least Atlanta gossip blogs will finally have something useful to discuss besides wigs and cheating pastors. Vanessa said. Even Ethan laughed at that. Vanessa grabbed her purse dramatically. Of course dramatically. She was still Vanessa. Vanessa, I'm going to my friend's penthouse. She said the paused at door and looked at Ethan and Naomi then said, Vanessa, one piece of advice? Naomi, what? Vanessa, love him properly. That man works too hard and forgets to eat when stressed. Naomi blinked in shock. Vanessa smirked weakly. See, even I noticed one thing. And then she left. The giant front doors closed softly behind her. This time, no screaming, no crashing, no performance. Just the end. The mansion became silent again. But different now. Lighter somehow. Ethan stood there staring at the closed door for a long moment. Then Naomi quietly picked up his loosened bow tie from the floor. She held it gently. Ethan, you're still cleaning up after me. Naomi, you're still making messes. They both smiled softly. Small, careful, terrified smiles. The kind people share before love changes everything. Outside, rain began falling over Atlanta again. Inside the mansion, for the very first time in years, the house no longer felt empty. After Vanessa left, the mansion was finally quiet. No screaming. No crashing vases. No fake laughter echoing from Vanessa's endless parties. Just the soft sound of rain outside and two hearts trying very hard not to explode at the same time. Ethan held Naomi's hand. Neither of them wanted to let go first. Ethan looked at Naomi then said, You know what's crazy? What? Naomi asked. I built companies worth billions, negotiated deals across 3 continents, sat in rooms with presidents and investors. Ethan said then smiled softly and carried on. But sitting here with you is the most nervous I've ever been. Naomi laughed quietly through tears. That's because you can't threaten me with legal documents, she replied. True, Ethan said, you terrify me naturally. She shook her head, smiling. Then silence returned again. Heavy, tender, dangerously honest. Naomi looked at their joined hands and said, I kept fighting this. I know, replied Ethan. I prayed about it too, she added. Ethan raised an eyebrow then asked, And what did God say? He probably muted me after the 3rd time. Ethan laughed deeply. A real laugh. The kind Naomi had secretly wanted to hear for months. Then his face softened again. Naomi, Ethan called her. Just hearing her name in his voice almost broke her. Ethan carried on. When I come home, you're the first person I look for. Her eyes watered instantly. When something good happens, you're the person I want to tell. He moved closer to her and added, And when everything feels heavy, you somehow make this house feel peaceful. Naomi's lips trembled, and she replied, You don't understand how long I've wanted to hear that. Then tell me, Ethan said. She inhaled shakily. I loved you long before I admitted it to myself. Ethan closed his eyes briefly like the words physically hit him. It started so small, she said and laughed weakly. Coffee. Your ties. Breakfast conversations. Her voice cracked. Then suddenly your happiness started affecting mine. Ethan squeezed her hand tighter. When you came home stressed, I felt stressed, and when you smiled, my whole day became lighter. She said. Tears rolled down her cheeks now. And I hated myself for it, because you were married and I was just, don't. Ethan said he hugged her and said, Never say just anything. You were the only real thing in this house. That silence afterward. Oh, that silence was dangerous. The kind that changes lives. Naomi whispered softly. What happens now? Ethan looked at her carefully. Not lustfully. Not recklessly. But like a man finally in front of peace after years of emotional noise. Now, said Ethan, now I want slow mornings with you. Naomi blinked. Ethan carried on. I want breakfast conversations that don't feel forced. I want someone who listens because they care, not because they're waiting to post online afterward. Naomi laughed through tears again. I want to come home to you every evening after work. That sentence completely shattered whatever emotional strength Naomi had left. She covered her mouth as tears fell harder. Ethan kept going. I know this isn't simple. No, it isn't, Naomi replied. But for the first time in years, I know exactly what I feel. Ethan said. Naomi slowly placed her free hand against his chest, right over his heartbeat. And she said, You deserve peace, Ethan. He looked at her lovingly and said, And you deserve to be loved loudly. That nearly finished her completely. She laughed while crying again. Naomi, you really waited until midnight after a vase attack to become romantic? Ethan, I had a traumatic evening. Growth was forced on me. She laughed harder. And somehow, that laugh healed something inside him. Ethan gently wiped a tear from her cheek. Ethan, I don't know what tomorrow looks like yet. Naomi, me neither. Ethan, but I know one thing. Naomi, what? Ethan, I don't want another day pretending I don't love you. Naomi's breath caught. Then finally, she whispered the words she had buried for so long. Naomi, I love you too. And somewhere outside that Atlanta mansion, rain continued falling softly over the city, while upstairs, for the very first time, two lonely people stopped feeling lonely.